The house was alive that Friday night. Laughter bouncing off the walls, champagne fizzing, music wrapping everyone in a golden haze. I remember thinking how perfect it all felt, how easy it was to believe everything was fine. But then, across the room, I saw Daniel, my husband, smiling at his phone. His expression softened in a way that wasn't meant for a spreadsheet or a client. It was subtle, but something inside me went still. You know that quiet instinct that whispers, "Pay attention?" That's what I felt. He walked over, the same confident stride he always had when he knew all eyes were on him. "I've got to leave early Monday night," he said, casual as ever. "Big client dinner." I smiled, pretending it was normal, pretending I didn't already feel that twist in my stomach. "Where's the dinner?" I asked, trying to sound curious, not suspicious. "At the Rosewood Hotel," he said, too quickly. "Strictly business. Boring stuff." The lie slid off his tongue so easily I almost admired it. I offered to iron his suit. Something small, domestic, safe. He grinned, kissed my forehead, and said, "Sure, but don't expect gossip. It's just numbers and wine." When he walked away, Nina, my friend, leaned closer with that kind of look women give when they know something you don't. "The Rosewood?" she whispered. "That's funny. He told someone at work it's a private dinner for 2. My heart skipped. 2? My smile froze in place, but inside, everything shifted. I turned toward Nina, forcing a small laugh to cover the tremor in my chest. 2? Who told you that? I asked, my voice lighter than I felt. She hesitated, swirling the champagne in her glass before whispering, "I think you should check that invitation, Laura. Maybe it wasn't meant for you." Her words landed softly but burned like acid. I tried to smile, nod, say something witty, but all I could hear was the word "to" echoing in my head, breaking the rhythm of the party around me. For the rest of the night I played my part, laughing when someone told a joke, clinking glasses, pretending not to notice Daniel's phone lighting up again and again. Every flash of that screen felt like a spark in my ribs. I kept asking myself, was it my imagination? Maybe Nina misunderstood. Maybe Daniel really did have a meeting. But then again, why would she say it with that look, the one that said, "I'm sorry you have to find out like this"? When we finally got home, I couldn't sleep. The laughter from the party still echoed in my ears, but it sounded hollow now. Daniel snored beside me, peaceful, untouched by the storm quietly rising next to him. I stared at the ceiling and wondered when exactly the distance between us had started. Was it in the way he no longer reached for my hand in public, or in how he smiled at his phone more than at me? I didn't know yet, but I was about to find out. The next morning, I tried to shake it off, made coffee, folded laundry, smiled when Daniel kissed my cheek goodbye. But that whisper from Nina clung to me like perfume I couldn't wash away. "Maybe it wasn't meant for you." The phrase replayed with every sip of coffee, every tick of the kitchen clock. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was instinct. That deep, feminine knowing that doesn't need proof to recognize betrayal when it's breathing beside you. At work, I caught myself staring at my reflection in the computer screen. Calm on the outside, but with a storm gathering underneath. I thought about the Rosewood Hotel, its glittering chandeliers, the soft piano music that played in its lobby. I'd been there once, years ago, for our anniversary dinner. Funny how the same place could hold both memories and warnings. My chest ached at the thought that it might soon hold his secrets too. By the time Friday turned to Sunday, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something inside me, pride maybe, or self-respect, refused to stay quiet. I didn't have evidence yet, only a gut full of dread and a whisper from a friend. But as I watched Daniel hum in the kitchen, pretending everything was fine, I made myself a silent promise. Come Monday, I'd find out exactly who that invitation was really meant for. Sunday night arrived, and I could feel something shifting in the air between us, quiet but sharp, like glass under silk. Daniel was humming again, a tune I didn't recognize, as he adjusted his tie in the mirror. New cologne, fresh haircut, the works. It wasn't just a dinner. It was a performance. I watched him move around our bedroom, rehearsing his lines in his head, unaware that I'd started memorizing mine too. The next morning, over breakfast, I decided to test him. I buttered my toast, pretending to scroll through my phone, my voice casual. "So, about that dinner tomorrow. Who's going?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Just me and the client," he said, too quickly, without even looking up from his coffee. "Small private affair. The company's paying." He smiled, that rehearsed smile I used to love, but something about it felt hollow now, like a door closing. "Anyone I know?" I asked, trying not to sound like I was searching for cracks. "Nope. Don't wait up for me, okay?" He leaned in, kissed my cheek, and walked out with that same easy confidence. I watched him leave, the echo of the door slamming feeling louder than it should have. My gut screamed, not softly, not gently, but in a way that demanded I listen. Something about that dinner didn't add up, and I was done pretending not to notice. That afternoon, the house felt too quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I walked through the rooms aimlessly, my mind circling the same thought. What if Nina was right? Every time I tried to push it away, a faint scent of his new cologne, the empty wine glass on the counter, pulled it back. I kept glancing at his briefcase near the door. It was sitting there, half open, almost taunting me. I stood there for a long minute, battling with myself. I wasn't the kind of woman who snooped. At least I didn't think I was. But that night, trust felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. My hands trembled as I opened the briefcase, half expecting to find nothing but spreadsheets and receipts. Instead, there it was, a single ivory envelope. Dinner. Confirmation. Rosewood Suite 5. My breath caught in my throat. It was like the air had suddenly thickened, pressing against my ribs. I opened it carefully, almost hoping it was innocent. Inside was a handwritten note on elegant stationery. "Can't wait to see you again, my love. No one will ever find out. A." My stomach turned. I read it twice, then a third time, until the words blurred. My love. Not a client, not a friend. It was as if the floor gave out beneath me. The Rosewood wasn't a business dinner. It was an affair, planned down to the last detail. I sat there, holding that note like it was evidence of a crime, which, in a way, it was. The paper even smelled faintly of perfume, something floral and expensive. My hands shook, but my eyes stayed dry. It wasn't the tears I expected. It was a cold, quiet clarity, the kind that only comes when the truth finally stops pretending to be something else. So this is what it feels like, I thought. To love someone who's already chosen someone else behind your back. I tried to imagine who A was. Amelia? Anna? One of those women from his office who laughed too hard at his jokes? My mind ran wild, replaying every moment that hadn't made sense. The late nights, the sudden gym sessions, the change in cologne. All of it lined up now, like a puzzle snapping cruelly into place. He hadn't just lied. He'd built a world outside of ours, and he thought I'd never find the door. But I wasn't about to knock on it. Not yet. No, I wanted him to open it himself, to watch his own lie collapse in real time. That night, as I sat in the dark, the note resting on my lap, a strange calm washed over me. I wasn't the broken wife he thought I'd be. I was the woman he'd just underestimated, and by Monday night, he'd learn what a mistake that was. By Monday morning, the fear had burned away, leaving something sharper. Focus. I wasn't shaking anymore. I was thinking. Every word Daniel had said at that party replayed in my mind like a rehearsed script, and I finally knew my part in it. I wasn't going to confront him with tears or accusations. No, I wanted truth, but on my terms. I wanted to see his lies unravel without me saying a single word. That afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table with his business card in one hand and my phone in the other. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. "Hi," I said into the receiver, keeping my voice light. "This is Laura from Griffin & Co. I'm calling to confirm Mr. Daniel Green's reservation for tonight." My reflection in the window looked calm. Too calm. The receptionist's voice came through, polite and unaware. "Yes, Suite 5 for 8 p.m. Dinner for 2. Shall I confirm the champagne service?" I swallowed, forcing a smile even though no one could see it. "Yes," I replied softly. "Confirm everything." When I hung up, my hand stayed on the phone for a long time. The lie had become real, and I'd just made sure of it. It felt strange, almost empowering, like I was stepping into a version of myself I hadn't met before. The kind that didn't beg for honesty. She built her own stage for it. When Daniel came home that evening, I was already sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone. He smelled of aftershave and arrogance. "Hey, honey," he said, loosening his tie, acting like a man with nothing to hide. I smiled, calm and deliberate. "I'll be at my sister's tonight," I told him, my voice sweet as sugar. "She needs help with the kids." For a split second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Relief. The kind that says perfect timing. He leaned over, kissed the top of my head. "That's perfect, sweetheart. Have fun." The audacity almost made me laugh. He had no idea how carefully he was walking into his own trap. I watched him move through the kitchen, humming again, his hands light, relaxed, like guilt was a foreign language he didn't speak. "Oh, I will," I said softly, my fingers gripping the edge of my phone like a secret. He didn't notice the quiet steel in my tone. After he went to bed, I sat in the dark living room, the glow from the city lights spilling across the floor. The plan was simple: show up, see it with my own eyes, and make sure neither of them ever forgot it. Revenge didn't need to be loud. It just needed to be precise. And if he thought I'd disappear quietly, he was about to learn how gracefully a woman can burn everything down while smiling. The next morning, Daniel left early, whistling like a man with nothing but success ahead of him. I watched from the window, coffee in hand, and realized something strange. I didn't feel broken anymore. Betrayal had scorched away whatever softness I had left, and what remained was clarity. I'd spent years smoothing over his lies, forgiving what I didn't understand. But now, I understood everything, and I wasn't afraid of it. I pulled the note from the drawer one last time, that perfect, looping handwriting that had once shattered me. Now, it just made me smirk. "No one will ever find out," it said. Oh, but I had. And I wasn't just going to find out. I was going to make sure the truth had a front row seat. I slipped the note back into the envelope, tucked it in my purse, and zipped it shut. It felt symbolic, like sealing a promise to myself. That evening, I laid out my black dress, the one he'd always called too much for a dinner. Maybe it was. But that was exactly the point. I wasn't the wife waiting at home anymore. I was the woman walking into his lie, on my terms. And as the sun dipped below the skyline, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Calm, composed, dangerous. Tomorrow night, I'd walk into the Rosewood Hotel, and the performance would finally begin. By the time I reached the Rosewood, the city had settled into that golden hour when everything looks softer than it really is. The valet opened my door, and I stepped out like a woman who belonged there, steady, composed, deliberate. Inside, the air was warm with candlelight and quiet jazz. The scent of champagne drifted through the room, mingling with roses and expensive perfume. I felt my pulse steady, not from fear, but anticipation. This was the moment I'd been rehearsing in my mind since Friday night. I asked for suite 5, my voice smooth, polite. The hostess smiled, unaware of the battlefield I was walking into. As I approached the door, I could hear laughter. His laughter, the same sound that used to make me feel safe. I took a slow breath and turned the handle. The door opened easily, like the universe was daring me to look. Inside, soft music, golden light, 2 glasses of champagne already half empty, and Daniel, leaning forward, grinning at Amelia from across the table. For a second, everything went silent. No music, no chatter, just the ringing in my ears. My body felt weightless, as if the world had tilted slightly off its axis. But my voice, when it came, was calm, steady, almost kind. "You must be Amelia," I said, stepping fully into the light. "I've heard so much about you." Daniel's face drained of color, the same way wine disappears from a glass when it spills. And for the first time in years, I enjoyed watching him speechless. Amelia froze, her fork halfway to her lips, eyes wide like a child caught stealing. I didn't know," she stammered. I tilted my head, giving her a smile that wasn't cruel, just informed. "Didn't know he was married?" I asked softly. "Or didn't think I'd show up?" Daniel tried to stand, his chair scraping the floor, but I lifted a hand, a single gesture, and he stopped. Funny how silence can feel louder than shouting when you finally stop pretending. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, his voice cracking under the weight of the cliché. I almost laughed. "Oh, really? Because it looks exactly like a husband lying to his wife in a very expensive restaurant." A few diners nearby turned to glance our way. I didn't care. If humiliation was the dish he'd chosen, I was simply serving it back, plated beautifully. My calmness unnerved him more than any outburst ever could. I stepped closer, pulled the envelope from my purse, and laid it gently on the table between them. "You left this in your briefcase," I said. His eyes darted to the note, the one Amelia probably thought was safely hidden. "Next time, Daniel," I continued, my voice quiet but sharp enough to cut glass. "Try not to bring work home. Or your mistress." The word hung in the air like a dropped match, and in that moment, I didn't just expose his lie, I owned it. Daniel's mouth opened, desperate for words that no longer mattered. Amelia sat frozen, guilt painting her face in shades of regret and confusion. I could feel the eyes of the room on us, but I wasn't embarrassed. Not anymore. I reached for his glass of champagne, raised it slowly, and smiled. "Here's to the woman who thought she could replace me," I said, my tone smooth as silk. "Enjoy what's left of him. He'll need you to pay the bill tonight." The waiter didn't move. No one did. The whole suite felt suspended in that one sharp breath of silence. I turned toward the door, the hem of my black dress brushing against the floor, every step measured and unhurried. Behind me, Daniel called my name, but it sounded small, irrelevant, like a whisper from another life. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The truth was already doing the talking for me. As I stepped into the hallway, the cool air hit my skin like freedom itself. My heart wasn't racing, it was steady, beautifully, powerfully steady. I wasn't the woman who'd found her husband cheating, I was the woman who'd made him face it. The elevator doors slid shut in front of me, soft and final, and for the first time in a long while, I smiled without pretending. But I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Tomorrow, the real consequences would begin. The next morning, the apartment felt unnaturally still, as if even the walls were waiting to see what would happen next. Daniel had spent the night somewhere else. I didn't care where. When I walked into my office, he was already there, standing by the door like a guilty teenager. "Laura, please," he said, his voice cracked, raw. It wasn't serious. I made a mistake. He looked smaller somehow, the confidence gone, replaced by desperation. I set my coffee down, met his eyes, and said nothing at first, letting silence do the work. Then I spoke, calm as ever. "You didn't make a mistake, Daniel. You made a reservation." The words hit him like a slap. Quiet, precise, earned. He reached for me, but I stepped back. "We can fix this," he said, his tone almost pleading. It was strange watching him crumble. The same man who once believed he could lie with elegance now tripping over every word. "The only thing getting fixed," I said, picking up a folder from my desk, "is the lock on our front door." His mouth opened, then closed again. He had no defense left, no spin, no charm that could rewrite what I'd already seen. I turned toward the window, the morning light spilling across my desk, and for the first time I realized this wasn't pain anymore. It was closure, shaped like power. He left my office without another word, and for a brief moment, I just stood there, feeling the echo of it, the silence he'd never managed to leave before. By the end of the week, I'd made sure every piece of evidence found its way to the right place. The screenshots, the note, the reservation confirmation, all wrapped neatly in an email to HR. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I preferred the kind that whispered, "Check your inbox." When the message was sent, I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. It wasn't satisfaction I felt exactly. It was peace. The kind that comes from doing what you know you had to do. Within 48 hours, both Daniel and Amelia were let go for violating workplace policy. I didn't smile when I heard the news. I just nodded, quietly, because justice doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it just knocks softly, and you open the door without hesitation. That night, I cooked dinner for one, pasta, a glass of wine, and music low enough to hear my own breathing. The apartment felt lighter, the air cleaner somehow, as if it, too, had been waiting for honesty. I didn't cry. I didn't toast to freedom. I just existed, calm, whole, unbroken. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like someone's wife. I felt like myself again. And that, I realized, was more powerful than any revenge. Days passed, and Daniel kept trying to call. Each voicemail sounded more like an echo of a man realizing he'd lost something that couldn't be replaced. "Laura, please, let's talk. Laura, I'm sorry. Laura, I miss you." The repetition didn't sting anymore. It just confirmed how blind he'd been. For years, I'd been the one waiting for him to notice me, to appreciate what he had. Now he was the one waiting. And I wasn't coming back. When the divorce papers were served, I didn't feel triumph, only clarity. The kind that comes when you finally step out of someone else's shadow. Friends asked if I was okay, and I'd smile. Not because I was pretending, but because I truly was. Freedom didn't look like fireworks or parties. It looked like sleeping through the night without wondering whose perfume he smelled like. It looked like peace, quiet and dignified. One evening, as the sun slipped behind the skyline, I stood on the balcony with a glass of wine, the city humming below. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who ironed his suits, believed his stories, and stayed quiet when something felt wrong. She'd died at the Rosewood that night, and I wasn't mourning her. I was thanking her for surviving long enough to let me become someone new. Months later, an envelope arrived in the mail. Cream paper, gold seal, my name written in careful cursive. For a moment, I just stared at it, my pulse steady but curious. It wasn't from Daniel. I'd stopped expecting his apologies long ago. Inside was an offer from a law firm I'd once dreamed of working for, a position as their new marketing director. I laughed softly, The kind of laugh that comes from remembering who you were before someone tried to shrink you. It felt like the universe had finally RSVP'd to me. I stood by the mirror, holding that letter, and caught my reflection. Not the woman who'd been betrayed, but the one who'd rebuilt. My hair was shorter now, lighter somehow, like I'd shed the weight of every broken promise. I thought of the rosewood, of the woman I'd been that night, calm but trembling inside. She had walked into her own heartbreak and come out carrying her power. This offer, this freedom, was her reward. I whispered to myself, smiling. Finally, an invitation that was meant for me. Then I slipped on my shoes, poured another cup of coffee, and walked out into the day like it belonged to me. Because it did. He invited betrayal into our marriage, but I invited myself into my own happiness. And this time, I didn't need anyone's permission to show up.